The jungle was dark and wet. Thick vines hung from the tall trees like snakes. Every step made a sound: splash, crack, snap. But the father didn't stop. His arms were shaking, but he held his daughter tight to his chest. Her body was small, maybe 4 years old in human age. Her skin was pale green, her eyes glowing softly in the dark. She didn't cry. She knew better. Even a whisper could bring death. Behind them, the alien soldiers were coming. Heavy boots crushed branches. Metal armor clanged. They were hunting. The father looked around. No more time. He dropped to his knees near a large tree with twisted roots. A small pit under the tree looked deep enough. He turned to his daughter. "Shh, stay quiet," he whispered. The girl looked scared. Her small fingers clung to his shirt. "I need to hide you now." He picked up cold, wet mud from the ground and began to smear it across her skin. Thick layers. Over her arms, her legs, her face. It stuck to her, heavy and cold. Her teeth chattered. She didn't speak. She just stared at him, trusting him. He gently laid her under the roots. He covered her with fallen leaves, more mud and sticks. Just enough to hide her, but not so much she couldn't breathe. "You must not move. No sound. No matter what happens. Do you understand?" She nodded, eyes wide with fear. The father kissed her forehead, mud and all, and then stood up, turning toward the sound of soldiers. He wiped his hands and ran in the other direction, shouting loudly, "Over here! I'm here!" The soldiers roared and gave chase. Hours passed. The jungle grew quiet. The girl lay still under the mud. Her body trembled from the cold. A beetle crawled across her hand. She didn't move. Her father had said, "Don't move." Then came footsteps. But they were softer and slower, not like soldiers. The mud near her shifted. A soft light fell on her face. She opened one eye. A tall figure stood above her. Not alien. Not soldier. A man. Human. He wore a simple jacket and boots. His face was dirty but kind. In his hand was a small lantern. He crouched down and brushed aside the leaves. He stared at the little girl, half covered in mud. She looked like a dying creature. "Oh God," he whispered. "Hey, are you alive?" She blinked. He pulled away the mud slowly, carefully. She gasped for air. Her voice was dry and cracked. "Papa?" The man paused. "No. I'm not your father," he said softly, "but I'll help you." She flinched and tried to crawl back. Hey, it's okay, I won't hurt you, you're safe now." She didn't understand all his words, but she felt something new in his voice. Warmth. He reached into his coat and took out a small bottle. He opened it and poured a few drops into her mouth. Water. She drank. Then she cried. Big, silent tears rolled down her muddy face. The man gently picked her up in his arms. She was light, too light, starving. He held her close and began walking. "My name's Jonas," he said. "Let's get you out of here." She didn't speak again, but she didn't resist either. They arrived at a small wooden hut deep inside, the jungle. Smoke came from the chimney. It was warm inside. A small fire burned in the middle. Jonas laid her down on a soft bed made of cloth and leaves. He brought more water, soft bread, and warm soup. She ate slowly, carefully. He cleaned the mud from her face with a wet cloth. She looked around, still silent. Her eyes followed his every move. "Don't worry," Jonas said. "Nobody will hurt you here. Not while I'm around." He wrapped her in a blanket. She looked like a tiny creature from another world, broken, fragile, but alive. Jonas sat by the fire and watched her. "Who left you out there?" he asked. She didn't answer. "Was it your people? Or soldiers?" She stared. At the flames, Jonas sighed. "Well, whoever you are, little one, you've got someone now." The wind outside howled. Inside, it was finally quiet. The girl woke up to the crackling sound of fire. The blanket around her was soft. She blinked. For a second, she didn't know where she was. Then her small hands reached out. Her father wasn't there. Her breathing quickened. She sat up fast, heart pounding. Then the human man entered the room. He was holding a bowl of hot soup and a piece of bread. His jacket was wet from the rain outside. His hair was messy, but his face was calm. He looked surprised to see her awake so soon. "You're up," he said gently. "Easy, it's okay. You're safe." She didn't answer. Her eyes darted around the small wooden hut. No weapons, just tools, a few books, a cooking pot, and that soft orange lantern that had lit up the jungle before he found her. Jonas placed the bowl near her. The warm smell of broth made her stomach twist. "I don't know if your kind eats this," he said with a small smile, "but you need food." She looked at the bowl, then back at him. Her hands trembled. She reached for the spoon, but then dropped it. Fear still sat inside her like a stone. "Here," he said, crouching down beside the bed. He picked up the spoon and gently fed her a small bite. She chewed slowly, then another bite, then another. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she ate. Her body had been starving, but her soul, it had been more hungry for kindness. Outside, the rain was falling again. Jonas sat beside the fire and watched the girl as she slowly relaxed. Her skin was still pale green and small scars marked her arms, but her eyes were bright, too bright for someone who had seen so much pain. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She shook her head. "No name?" She looked down. He sighed. "That's okay. We'll figure it out." He leaned back and stared at the wooden roof above. "Strange world," he muttered. "I came here to fix broken machines, and found a broken soul instead." She tilted her head, trying to understand. Jonas stood up and began preparing another blanket. "You can sleep here. I'll take the chair." He started to walk away, but her voice, small and cracked, stopped him. "Where?" "Papa." He turned, slowly. Her eyes were wide, scared. "Your father?" he asked. She nodded. Jonas knelt beside her. "I don't know, I didn't see him, but I'll help you find him, I promise." She stared at him for a long moment, then slowly reached for his hand. Her fingers were cold and weak, but they held on tight, and Jonas, the lonely human mechanic, held that tiny alien hand like it was the most important thing in the galaxy. Late that night, the wind howled again. The jungle whispered. Shadows danced on the wooden walls. Jonas couldn't sleep. He sat by the door, shotgun beside him, just in case the patrols came. He knew the local alien government didn't like humans getting involved in their affairs. Helping a hunted child could get him killed, or worse, but he didn't care. He looked back at the sleeping girl. Her breathing was soft now, peaceful. Something inside him had shifted. She wasn't just a random child. She was now his responsibility. At dawn, Jonas heard a strange sound outside. Not soldiers, not animals. It was the sound of someone crawling. He grabbed his shotgun and stepped outside carefully. Rain dripped from the leaves. The fog was thick. Then, movement. A figure stumbling forward. Jonas raised his weapon. "Stop! Show yourself!" The figure raised both hands and fell to the ground. It was the girl's father. His body was covered in bruises. His leg was bleeding. But his eyes, those same glowing eyes, searched frantically past Jonas. "My daughter," he gasped. "Is she alive?" Jonas lowered his weapon slowly. "Yes, she's inside. Safe." The alien man collapsed in the mud, whispering, "Thank the stars." Jonas rushed forward to lift him up. Inside, the girl opened her eyes, and for the first time since the jungle, she smiled. Her father was alive, and the human stranger was no longer a stranger. He was their protector now. The door opened with a slow creak. Cold air rushed in. The little alien girl sat up quickly, clutching the blanket around her shoulders. Her big, glowing eyes searched the figure entering through the mist. Mud dripped from his body. Blood soaked through his torn tunic. "Papa!" she cried. Jonas caught the man just before he collapsed. The father's knees hit the wooden floor hard. His arms reached out weakly as he fell near the fire, eyes locked on his daughter. "She's safe," Jonas said firmly, dragging him to the side and helping him sit. "She waited, just like you told her." The father gave a dry, broken laugh. "She always listens." The girl crawled over, ignoring the mud. She pressed her face against his chest and clung to him like she would never let go again. He winced, but held her with what little strength he had. Jonas quickly grabbed a clean cloth, water, and his old medkit. He ripped the father's sleeve and hissed through his teeth. A deep cut ran from shoulder to elbow. It was infected. Jonas began cleaning. "I'm Jonas," he said, not looking up. "I found her alone, hidden under mud, thought she was dead." The father nodded slowly. "I had no choice. They were tracking my blood. I had to lead them away." "Who were they?" Jonas asked. "Hunters. Tribal patrols. They don't want her alive, or me." The little girl said nothing. She just kept hugging her father. Her tiny fingers were shaking. "Why?" Jonas asked. The father leaned back, breathing heavily. "Because she's different. Her mother was from the highborn. I was lowborn. Our union was forbidden. When she was born, they said she was unclean, unfit to live." Jonas paused. "They tried to kill your child because of bloodlines." The alien nodded. "And they'll try again." Jonas looked at the child. She was trembling, but her eyes were brave. Then he looked at the man. "I don't care what they say," Jonas said, voice steady. "In my world, that's not how family works. You protect your kid. That's it." Jonas stitched the wound as best he could. He gave the father soup and wrapped his leg. The girl helped too, holding a cloth, bringing water, watching everything. She was silent, but her heart was wide open. As the fire grew warmer, Jonas handed the father a piece of bread. "You're lucky," Jonas said. "A few more hours in that rain and you'd be a body in the mud." The father gave a weak smile. "Then maybe fate chose well. She found you." Jonas stared into the fire. "I don't believe in fate. I believe in doing the right thing. And right now, you both stay here. No one's taking her again." The father looked at him closely. "You would risk your life? For us?" Jonas didn't answer. He stood and walked toward the window, watching the jungle outside. "Where I come from, we don't leave children to die," he said quietly. That night, the hut was calm. The girl slept curled between them, her tiny fingers wrapped around both their hands. Outside, the jungle whispered, but it couldn't touch them here. Not tonight. For the first time in many days, her dreams were not full of fear. And Jonas, he didn't realize it yet, but he was no longer just a mechanic. He was something more now, something deeper. He had become part of their family. The fire cracked in the middle of the hut. Soft light touched the three sleeping figures. Jonas on the floor with a blanket, the alien father still bandaged, and the small green-skinned girl curled between them like a tiny flame that had not gone out. But peace never lasts long in a hunted world. Boom! A deep thud echoed from outside, then another. The windows shook, dust fell from the wooden roof. Jonas was on his feet in seconds, shotgun in hand. The father sat up, panic in his eyes. "That sound, that's not an animal." The little girl began to cry. Jonas peeked through the slit in the wooden wall. Lanterns, shadows, moving. "They found you," Jonas muttered. "No," the father said. "They found us." Outside the hut, 3 alien patrol guards stood in formation. Their armor was bone white. Strange symbols glowed on their arms. Behind them was a sleek hover bike, official transport. A tall female stepped forward. Her skin was silver blue, her face sharp and cold. She knocked once. Hard. Jonas opened the door but didn't step back. "Can I help you?" he asked flatly. Her gaze moved past him. "You're harboring fugitives." "They're not fugitives," Jonas said. "They're survivors." The female officer raised a small, glowing disc. A hologram showed the girl's face, her father's, ID, and a symbol marked "Return or Terminate." "This child is marked for removal under tribal law," the officer said without blinking. "She's a threat to genetic purity." Jonas's grip tightened on his shotgun. "In human law," he growled, "you don't kill children because of bloodlines." The officer's eyes narrowed. "You are not in your law." "Then maybe it's time someone brought it here." She raised her hand. The two guards stepped forward. The girl screamed from inside. Her father moved to shield her, but Jonas didn't move aside. "You're not taking her," he said calmly. "She doesn't belong to you." "No," Jonas said. "She belongs to no one. She's a child, and she's under my roof." The guards looked uncertain. One lowered his weapon slightly. The officer stared at Jonas. "Is this worth your life?" Jonas's voice didn't shake. "Yes." Silence. Then the officer turned her head slightly. "She is not my fight," she said to her. "Men, this is a human home, for now." She glared at Jonas. "But if that child leaves this hut, we'll be waiting." They turned and left, their boots crushing the wet ground. Within moments, the hoverbike roared and disappeared into the night. Jonas closed the door and leaned against it, breathing hard. The father stared at him in disbelief. "You faced them. For us." Jonas nodded. "They're cowards. They hide behind laws made to crush the weak." He looked at the child who now sat on the floor, hugging a wooden spoon like it was her only safety. Jonas knelt down. "Listen, little one. As long as you're here, no one will hurt you. I promise." Her lips trembled. Then slowly, she nodded. Later that night, Jonas repaired the front door. The father limped to him, still weak. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," Jonas said without looking up. "But I did." The alien man placed a small medallion in Jonas's hand. It was made of carved crystal, glowing faintly. "This is all I have left of her mother," he said softly. "If something happens to me, give this to her, so she remembers who she is." Jonas didn't speak. He just closed his hand around the gift and nodded. Outside, the fire of confrontation had faded, but inside the hut, a new fire had started, the fire of belonging. The storm had passed. Morning light spilled through the wooden gaps in the hut's wall, painting golden stripes across the dusty floor. Inside, the air was quiet, but not heavy. The little alien girl sat near the fire, wrapped in a patchwork blanket. Her soft green fingers gripped a piece of bread as she chewed carefully. Across the room, her father slept soundly for the first time in days. His bandages had stopped bleeding. His breathing was even. Jonas sat at his small workbench, his back turned, humming a soft human tune as he repaired a broken food heater. The girl watched him. Click, snap, spark. The tool in Jonas's hand sparked and popped. He yelped, shaking his fingers. "Ow, this old junk still hates me." The girl blinked. He glanced at her. "Don't laugh." She stared at him. Then slowly, like sunlight breaking through thick clouds, a sound came out of her mouth, a tiny, breathy giggle. Jonas turned, stunned. Her shoulders shook. Her hand covered her mouth. She was laughing. It was small, it was fragile, it was beautiful. Jonas grinned. "So, you can laugh." The girl nodded quickly, then smiled wider. "Okay, all right. Let's see if we can make that happen again." He grabbed a small metal piece, placed it like a crown on his head, and stood up tall. "I am Lord Jonas of Rust and Wires. Fear me, for I command broken toasters." He made a silly face and crossed his eyes. The girl burst out laughing, this time louder. Her feet kicked the blanket, her arms hugged her stomach, and tears rolled down her cheeks. but not from sadness, from pure joy. The father opened his eyes at the sound. He sat up slowly. For a second, he looked confused. Then he saw her. Laughing. Alive. Happy. His lips trembled. He covered his mouth with his hand, as if holding in a flood of emotion. He had never heard that laugh before. Not once in her short, painful life. Later, Jonas gave her a small wrench. Here, want to help me fix the heater? She nodded and took the tool carefully in her little hands. He showed her what to do. She mimicked him. Together, they fixed a spark plug, twisted wires, and patched a panel. When the heater hummed to life, she clapped excitedly. Jonas raised an eyebrow. That's engineer-level skill right there. She tilted her head. Engineer? It means someone who fixes things. She pointed to herself. Me? He smiled. Yes, you. Then she pointed to Jonas. Papa? Jonas paused. He looked at the father. The alien man didn't speak. He just nodded, eyes glassy. Jonas crouched next to the girl. You already have a papa, he said gently. She looked down. You, also kind. Jonas swallowed hard. I'll be here. For both of you, that's a promise. That evening, the three of them shared warm soup together. The girl leaned against Jonas's arm while he told her a simple Earth tale about a mouse who built a spaceship. She didn't understand every word, but she understood the warmth, the laughter, the safety. Outside, the jungle still growled. But inside, the hut, the sound of a child's laughter had returned life to the air. The girl who had once been covered in mud and silence now shined brighter than ever before. The stars blinked quietly above the jungle. The world outside the hut was calm, almost too calm. Inside, the fire burned low. The little alien girl slept peacefully in her blanket nest. Her father was resting beside her, chest rising and falling, in a steady rhythm. Jonas sat outside on the wooden step watching the trees. He had a cup of bitter herb tea in one hand, and his old shotgun leaning against the wall beside him. Something felt wrong, too still, too quiet. Then he saw it. A shimmer in the darkness, a figure slipping between the trees. Jonas stood up slowly, his boots pressed into the mud without sound. He moved like a hunter, but he wasn't hunting. He was protecting. He followed the faint prints until he reached a small clearing. There, standing beside a tree, was an old man, Rugen, a neighbor who lived down the valley, an alien with sunken eyes and a twisted back. What are you doing out here, Rugen? Jonas asked, voice cold. Rugen jumped, startled. Ah, Jonas, you scared me. Why are you sneaking around my hut at night? Rugen smiled nervously. I was just curious, heard rumors you're sheltering outlaws. Jonas stepped closer. They're not outlaws. They're a family. You know that. Rugen didn't answer. Jonas narrowed his eyes. Who did you talk to? Rugen looked away. They said they'd forgive my debts if I told them where the girl was. Jonas froze. They're coming, Jonas, Rugen whispered. Tonight. Jonas ran. Branches whipped past his face. His heart thundered in his chest. The hut came into view. He burst through the door. Wake up, he shouted. We have to go, now. The father sat up instantly. The girl stirred, confused. What happened? The father asked, grabbing his bandaged leg. They're coming, Jonas said. The patrols, I don't know how many. The girl grabbed Jonas's hand. Her eyes were wide with fear. I'm sorry, Jonas told them. I should have seen it coming. Within minutes, Jonas had thrown supplies into a sack. Food, medicine, extra clothes. The father limped to the door. We can't run far. Not like this. Jonas turned to him. We don't need to run far. Just to the cabin in the North Woods. It's hidden. No one goes there anymore. He picked up the girl, wrapped in a blanket. She didn't cry this time. She just buried her face into his shoulder. Outside, distant lights began to glow through the trees. The search party was near. They slipped into the jungle. Jonas led the way, flashlight off, moving by memory and moonlight. The father followed behind, breathing hard but steady. Every crack of a twig sounded like thunder in their ears. Voices echoed behind them, cold, commanding, in alien language. But Jonas didn't stop. He would not let them be taken. Suddenly, the father stumbled and fell. His leg gave out. Jonas turned back, lifting him up. "We're close," he said. "You can make it." "I'm slowing you down," the father gasped. "Take her. Leave me." Jonas glared at him. "Don't you ever say that again." He shifted the girl in one arm, then threw the father's arm over his shoulder. They kept moving, one step at a time. Finally, after what felt like forever, the cabin appeared. Old, covered in moss, forgotten by time. Jonas kicked the door open and brought them inside. He laid them down on straw bedding and closed the wooden shutters tight. Outside, the patrols moved deeper into the forest, but passed by, unaware of the hidden shelter. They were safe. For now. The girl sat beside Jonas and leaned her head on his arm. "You came back," she whispered. He looked at her gently. "I always will." The cabin in the woods was small but warm. Outside, the jungle whispered gently under the rising sun. Morning light pushed through the cracks in the walls, brushing over 3 sleeping figures like a soft blessing. The girl woke first. She sat up, rubbing her eyes. For the first time in days, her stomach didn't hurt. Her body didn't shake. And she wasn't cold. She looked around. Jonas was sleeping near the door, gun beside him. Her real father was snoring softly, his chest moving steady and calm. She smiled. Quietly, the little girl tiptoed to the corner where Jonas had set up his workbench again. He had taken the broken heater with him when they escaped. It sat half-repaired now, its wires tangled like vines. She picked up a tool. She didn't know the names yet. But she remembered how he showed her. What to twist, what to press. She was learning, she was trying, she was becoming. A few hours later, Jonas woke to the sound of small clinks. He blinked, then grinned when he saw her, sitting cross-legged, face serious, hands greasy with wire coating. "You fixing my heater?" he said, his voice rough with sleep. She nodded proudly. "Yes." "Good," he said, stretching. "Because I'm too tired to do it today." She giggled. That sound made the cabin feel like home. Later that day, Jonas sat outside carving something from wood while the girl and her father shared soup. The father was healing, still limping, still sore, but smiling. He looked at Jonas. "You've given us more than shelter," he said. "You gave my daughter a future." Jonas shook his head. She already had that. She just needed someone to believe it. The father looked down. "She has no name," he said quietly. "She was born during exile. My clan refused to mark her. Even her mother was afraid." Jonas paused. "She deserves a name." They looked at the girl who sat humming, building a small tower out of stones. "Then let's give her one," Jonas said. "Together." That evening, they sat by the fire. Jonas pulled out the wooden carving he had finished. It was a small pendant shaped like a gear with wings. Half machine, half freedom, he held it out to the girl. "This is yours," he said. "Because you're strong and smart, and you helped fix a broken world." The girl took it in her hands, eyes wide. "We thought of a name," Jonas added. "Do you want to hear it?" She nodded quickly. The father spoke first. "Your mother's name was Kailari, brave and kind. You carry her spirit." Jonas added, "And I chose Nova. It's what we call a star that explodes with light, even in darkness." "Kailari Nova," the father said softly. "Or just Nova, if you like short names." Jonas smiled. The girl blinked. Then she smiled. She stood, walked to the wall, and pressed her small handprint in the dust. Then turned around. "My Name is Nova. That night under the stars, Jonas stepped outside. He looked up at the sky. So many stars. So many forgotten stories. But one story, Nova's story, was just beginning. Behind him, the door creaked. The girl came out, dragging her blanket. Jonas opened his arms without a word. She sat beside him, leaning against his side. "You think they'll come back?" she asked. "Maybe," he answered. "But next time, we'll be ready." She nodded, then said quietly, "I'm not scared anymore." Jonas smiled, kissed her forehead, and whispered back, "You don't have to be."